We are live. It's the InfoWarrior with Jason Bermas on this Sunday, November 29th. Month is just flying right by. We will be joined by Webster Tarpley for the majority of this hour going into the financial collapse and also the ClimateGate crisis. I have some really crazy leftist articles over here by people like George Moonbath saying, look, we can't pretend they're not there and most people aren't going to understand the explanations, but climate change is real and we still need the carbon tax. But I really want to get into this financial information, do a little bit of a recap of what Webster was talking about on Alex's Jones show just a few moments ago. I mean, we have Bernanke trying to, push further the agenda of the Federal Reserve and the banksters by saying, well, if you take our power away, we're really going to have this collapse sooner, and we can't be audited, even though it's out of committee now. 1207 is yet another victory for the Patriot movement. Let's get right into it with Webster Tarpley. Can we just get a small overview of what you were discussing with Alex prior?
Yes, Jason. The main thing to look at right now is the bankruptcy of Dubai, which is in some ways a national bankruptcy. In other words, a sovereign entity seems to be going bankrupt, although there's some question about this. Dubai, you remember, is this emirate in the Persian Gulf or Arabian Gulf, as you may want to call it. It's not that far from the Straits of Hormuz, right? It has a border with Oman there, and it's a big U.S. Air Force base, and it's part of the United Arab Emirates. The main center of the United Arab Emirates is Abu Dhabi, and they're the ones who have the oil wells and therefore the money. So the sheik of Dubai had gone into these monstrous real estate speculations, right? He built this huge hotel in the form of a sail. He's got a building which is going to be, I guess, the best part of a mile high. He's got these real estate developments on the water where he does them in the pattern of a palm, or he's got one of them that looks like the map of the world when seen from above. And all of this stuff had been mainly invested in by the British, and now he's bankrupt. That is to say, he claims he's not bankrupt. The Emir of Dubai is a degenerate by the name of Maktoum, and this is somebody who has slaves, right, as all of these emirates. This was a guy who was big into camel racing, and the camel jockeys, it turns out, were small boys who had been kidnapped for the purpose of being camel jockeys and kept as slaves, probably for other reasons too, which we won't go into. So this is Maktoum, and he's an absolute degenerate and a puppet of the British and now, of course, of the U.S. So between Wednesday and Thursday, this Dubai Ports World, and Nakheel, Nakheel, have announced that they can't pay. So they want a rescheduling. They want a standstill, which means they don't have to pay anything for a while. Then they want to reschedule, and then of course it means that they're in default, right? They're essentially bankrupt because they've stopped paying, and that has caused a world stock market panic. It was not seen too much here in the U.S. because the markets were closed on Thanksgiving on Thursday, and then there was only this short session, right, just the morning of Friday. But that was already enough for the U.S. market to go down 150 points. But in other parts of the world, it was much worse, right? The Japanese have lost 5 or 6%. Korea lost 1%, 5% in one day, and other markets in Europe were down 3 or 4%, especially on that Thursday. So we are now in the calm just before the storm, because when the New York market opens tomorrow morning, if you look at the futures, they're signaling that the stock market will crash by about minus 200 points, and that may not be all of it, right? Because you've got essentially what I've been able to determine, the money that was put into Dubai World was put in by a bunch of British banks and other banks, including Citibank, and that they may be now forced to sell assets, which could turn into a real stock market panic, among other things.
This situation in Dubai is the headline over at Reuters. We are actually going to delve deeper into this with Webster Griffin Tarpley. We've got all his books here at Infowars.com. It's the InfoWarrior with Jason Bermas, PrisonPlanet.tv, Infowars.net. We are back Back live, it's the InfoWarrior with Jason Bermas. We are joined by Webster Tarpley. This is the headline out of Reuters. United Arab Emirates moves to counter Dubai fallout, but markets wary. The United Arab Emirates offered banks emergency support on Sunday, the first steps to ease fears that a looming debt default by two of Dubai's flagship firms could derail the global economic recovery, as if the recovery was actually taking place. Now, this is something we have covered before on the show, but not as in depth. And as I understand it, Webster, there are separate laws out in Dubai. A lot of people who were there thinking that this was going to be an economic boom, had bought apartments there, had accepted jobs there, all of a sudden couldn't afford their bills, and they left the country in fear of actually being imprisoned because the system is so different there. And like you said, they were building these lavish hotels. They were also building these artificial type islands out in the water that were just a spectacle. I couldn't even believe it. You can go to Google Earth if you don't believe me and go check these man-made objects out. So what does this all mean? I mean, is this a bailout for these people? This United Arab Emirates offering bank emergency support? What does it mean?
Well, the idea is that the United Arab Emirates, and in particular the Abu Dhabi part of it, is that's where the money is. The Emirates are, I think there are 7 or 8 of them, but the only 2 that amount to anything are Dubai, which is the one with these huge buildings, which is bankrupt now, and then Abu Dhabi with the oil wells and the money. The bailout, if it's real, would be that the emir of Abu Dhabi comes to the aid of his fraternal degenerate brother, the emir of Dubai, with this money. But I don't believe this, frankly. I think this is just a press release because I don't see it happening. Because who guarantees us that the emir of Abu Dhabi is able to do this in the present situation? I don't.
So, do you think this is a maneuver to stall the actual situation?
Pardon me?
Is this a maneuver to stall the actual situation by saying, yes, we're going to come in?
I think it's to try to avoid a world panic on Monday morning, because otherwise that's what you're going to have. Let me just go through this now. The British banking system has already been fatally weakened a year ago in the wake of Lehman Brothers. And remember, the British helped to force Lehman Brothers into bankruptcy. So now they've sown the whirlwind, and now they're going to harvest it. The big banks holding the bag for the Emir of Dubai are Hong Kong Shanghai Banking Corporation, 10 billion pounds of debt. Now, this is the old Hong Kong one, the one that's implicated in all the stories about narcotics and narcotics coming out of China and so forth. So that's HSBC, 10 billion in debt. Then you have Barclays Bank. Barclays Bank is one that you, the American taxpayer, bailed out through the bailout, through the graces of Geithner. They are owed £3 billion. So it's about $4.5 billion to $5 billion. Royal Bank of Scotland, which was the biggest bank and the biggest corporation in the world until it blew up last year, is owed a lot. Lloyds Bank is also owed. We've also got Mitsubishi UFJ of Japan and Semitoro Mitsui, obviously the 2 Japanese trading companies implicated there. You've also got Citibank. And when you get to Citibank and Citigroup, that's where you have to worry. It would be a good thing to audit the Fed. It would be a far better thing to seize the Fed and nationalize it immediately, because otherwise, if you audit it, you will know that Bernanke is putting money into Citibank to cushion them against losses from Dubai. Better is to own it as the American government and say, no, we're not going to do that. And we have all of these stories now about people scurrying around the world trying to put together different bailout packages and different things for tomorrow morning. Again, one of them is that Dubai seems to own the Queen Elizabeth II, so they may have to hawk. They put the Queen Elizabeth II on eBay to get the money for the emir to pay his debt. So on the one side, we've been looking now for the second wave of the depression here in the U.S. and in Europe and Japan, and this seems to be it. In other words, since March, we've had Bernanke with 0% Federal Reserve lending to banks only, not to production, only to parasitical banks, credit card companies, insurance companies, and so forth. So that has created an asset bubble, right? The Dow Jones has gone from 6,500 to over 10,000, and now that is a candidate to collapse again because there was nothing real in it anyway. It was simply an asset bubble based on 0% lending. Here's the other thing, though, is the dollar carry trade. The dollar carry trade is you're a bank here, you go to the Federal Reserve, you borrow for 0%, and then you send that money overseas to some emerging market, which is much riskier, but where the returns are much higher. Notice also when this happens, that's what puts such a tremendous downward pressure on the dollar, because you're generating this hot money at the Fed, and then that is used to buy a foreign currency, sell the dollar, so that drives the dollar down. If you want to do something to make the dollar a little healthier, one thing to do would be to end that practice. But now let's look at the countries where this stuff has been going. That hot money from the U.S. dollar carry trade has been going to places like Greece, like Hungary, Latvia, Estonia, Turkey, the Ukraine, Qatar, Ireland, Malaysia, India, Russia.